You would see everything that you're seeing actually on the movie, and that's very true. So what the scientists were concluding was, okay, if sound is traveling through a medium that we call air on Earth, we can still see light from space. Is light traveling through a medium too? And lo and behold, they decided to set up an experiment to see if they could find the substance or the medium that light was traveling through. And they called this substance that they believed that the light that was hitting their eye from the stars and from the planets and that sort of thing, the light that was traveling through, they called it the ether. That's E-T-H-E-R or A-E-T-H-E-R. And that word simply means substance or stuff, okay? In fact, they called it a big fancy term called the ether luminiferous, but all that means is light-bearing stuff, all right? Light-bearing substance. So they didn't know what it was, to say the least, but they figured it was something just by logically deducing that something had to be there to carry these light waves and all this other radiation that was out there in space, okay? So Michelson and Morley decided to set this thing up, and Morley believed that there was an ether, and he was trying to prove the existence of it. He got with his buddy Michelson, and they set up this experiment whereby what they did is they actually split a light beam. They ran part of the light perpendicular to the other light beam, and they tried to recombine it back together in such a way so that they could detect some interference between the two beams. And they figured if they controlled all the other variables, all things considered, if there was an interference pattern between the light beams, that means there was some distortion between the two beams when they combined them back together, they had found the ether, okay? They called it a phase shift of the ether drag, for lack of better words. That's a fancy science term, but it basically means they found the substance that light is traveling through, okay?
Wow.
So these guys, Michelson and Morley, they got together. They decided to conduct the experiment, and a lot of people who are trained in physics, or if they've kind of had a basic background in general science, they know the way the textbooks read. Michelson and Morley did not find the ether, okay? This set the stage for our modern understanding of science, okay? Because what ended up happening was these guys said, you know, we thought it was going to be there. It wasn't there. Lo and behold, what does this mean, okay? A guy by the name of Lawrence with his other buddy Fitzgerald, they formed what they were calling the Lawrence transforms. They took a bunch of equations. They said, no, the ether's there, but you guys just have to account for the fact that something is missing there. So they tried to basically use a system of mathematics to show that the ether was there, even though the experiment seemed to prove that it wasn't, okay? Steps in Einstein, all right, Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein took what Michelson and Morley had proven, quote unquote, and he took also the Lawrence transforms, what Lawrence and Fitzgerald had come up with in terms of trying to prove the existence of the ether, and he goes through a series of mathematical equations, and he comes up basically in so many words with the infamous special theory of relativity, okay? So Einstein says there is no ether out there. There's no substance that these waves and these things and these particles are traveling through. So we have to readjust our thinking. We can't assume that there's a substance out there that this stuff is in and that we're in a substance. We have to just set everything by the speed of light, okay? So the velocity of light becomes the standard, not the ether, okay? And as a result, Einstein's whole special theory of relativity was greatly promoted. There probably isn't a person out there today who doesn't know Einstein's name. And this set the tone whereby people began to go away from the idea that there was a living substance that all things existed in, and instead there was nothing out there that it existed in. It all just basically happened through random chance, okay? So what evolution did to the living sciences, Einstein's special theory of relativity did to the general sciences, okay? And even to this day, the reason why, if you've noticed, I'm sure, in our society we go by all things are relative, there are no absolutes and things like that, or how everything is built around the eye gate. Yeah. In our society, you know, it's all about your eyes, and it's all about optical effects and this sort of thing, and it's all about what you look like. Those are the social results of people who have grown up in a society that was basically designed around this idea of relativity. That when it's all said and done, there's nothing out there but us. We are the standard, and if you really have to have a mathematical standard, it has to be the speed of light. It can't be anything else. That's why, in all your little science fiction movies, they go to light speed and all this sort of thing. The reason why they're doing that is that, according to Einstein's theory, and this is a gross paraphrase of this theory, of course, but what it says when you boil it all down is that nothing can really travel faster than the speed of light. Okay? And so Einstein set the tone for general science and even the living sciences by doing this, okay? But there was a guy who came around shortly after Michelson and Morley supposedly concluded these fatal results of the ether by the name of George Sagnac, and that last name is spelled S-A-G-N-A-C. I'm spelling that because you probably won't find Sagnac's name in the textbooks. You'll find Michelson and Morley and Einstein in your science textbooks, but you won't see Sagnac's name, and the reason why I think you'll see in just a moment. Sagnac said, "Not so fast, guys. You guys set up the experiment wrong. You were measuring the wrong thing at the wrong time in the wrong way, okay? Let me redo the experiment, and I believe we can find the ether, okay?" So what Sagnac did is he said, Michelson and Morley set up the experiment as if space was flat and rectilinear, as if it was just kind of a flat, dead rectangle sitting out there. He said space is rotating. It has a circular component to it, and you guys didn't account for that. And so what he did is he redid the Michelson-Morley experiment, but he put it on a turntable this time instead of just having like a little flat plane. And by rotating the experiment, he shot the light beams apart from each other and then recombined them back together. Lo and behold, guess what? He found the ether. He found the ether coefficient. He found that the light beams did have an interference pattern, and he found that there was a substance that all things are sitting in, and there's a substance that we're sitting in, and that is in us, and it is called the ether. And sure enough, Sagnac found this, I believe, in about 1921. Morley, of Michelson and Morley, went back with another colleague of his and redid Sagnac's experiment, and they found the same results. So that's very important in the scientific community about repeatability. If you can repeat something, you're basically normally you're stumbling across a serious principle that's worth noting. However, I think it's very interesting. You rarely hear of Sagnac's name. Probably most people have never heard of Sagnac before, and they haven't heard of those results. Why? Because the scientific priesthood, as Farrell calls it, will not allow any discussion about the ether. The ether is something that they used to believe way back in the day, and it's not really something we believe now. We've matured out of that. Now we design everything around light speed. So why is this important? This is important because if there's an ether, there's a substance out there that all things are existing in. If there's a substance out there that all things are existing in, then that's pointing to the Spirit of God himself.
Yes.
The very same thing that the Bible refers to. But lo and behold, the ether is making a comeback, and I'll talk about that. I just want to see, did you have a question or anything? Or
no, I'm just spellbound. This is really fascinating.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff that's out there, and most people tend to be like yourself. They tend to be well read, and they haven't even heard of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. At some time in the late '90s, I believe it was SRI Institute put out a paper that the speed of light fluctuates. And that was very interesting reading. I don't even know why I got that, but I got it and read it.
Yeah, that's right. Basically, what was happening is that with the onset of quantum mechanics and quantum theory and superstring and M theory and all these things, what they're starting to realize is, hey, wait a minute, we've been looking at this thing too simplistically.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what we were talking about back in session 1 about God and science, where we were talking about, they believed there was a little simple cell out there, and then when they realized, okay, this simple cell is not so simple, this thing has 5 times the amount of a large city going on inside of it. Mm-hmm. So it's much, much more than just how you read in the little introductory to biology textbooks. There's a little nucleus and there's a few mitochondria in there, but it's just some protoplasm. No, there's all kinds of things going on in your cells, and when you get to the molecular level, and especially the molecular genetic level, oh my goodness, it just opens up into this whole new world of things going on there, and the organization in one of your cells is astonishing. Even when you look at the DNA inside of your cells, Grant Jeffrey talks about it in Creation. He talks about the fact that it's a 4-code system where you have a DNA. It's actually like a 4-code computer program.
Yeah.
You know, for example, most computers run off a binary system. That's a 2-digit system of zeros and ones. Your telephone runs off about 14 digits